stupid, but they claim that Joe Biden is some socialist who's controlled by Bernie Sanders and AOC. It couldn't be further from the truth. Democrats have completely rejected AOC and Bernie Sanders. They've tried to bury them. They've done everything they can in order to shoo the left out of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is a right-wing party. It is a right-wing party. Now, you can argue that the Republican Party is more right-wing. I think now the Republican Party is shifting in some ways to the left. And so both parties are kind of right-wing in different ways, but they're both right-wing parties. And the Democratic Party has done everything they can to eliminate the left from the Democratic Party. And so to hear this rhetoric coming from the Republicans like Nikki Haley, where they're sitting there saying, socialists are coming. Socialists are running the Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders and AOC are going to have Trump on what's his face? Biden. Here, I'm pulling a Biden. I can't remember his name. They're going to have Biden under their thumb. And that is what's going to destroy America. And that couldn't be further from the truth. That hateful rhetoric is just meant to stoke fear because that's what works. That is what's working with the Democrats. It's fear, fear, fear. Trump is the next Hitler. Trump is this demagogue. He's going to bring about the apocalypse. And that has been working for them. And the Republicans attempt to do something very similar when they sit there and they say, the socialists are coming. The socialists are coming to get you. And a lot of that, again, it's the, anti-China narrative, the Chinese, they're communists, they're coming for you. And that works to some degree. But hey, if you're a Republican and you're watching this, let me just tell you, it couldn't be further from the truth. The Democratic Party wants nothing to do with the Bernie Sanders wing or the squad wing of the party. They want them gone. If it were up to them, they would have been gone years ago. But interestingly, the Republican Party is running on pro-workers and less war. That is what they're running on. So that is what we're seeing from the Republican National Convention is, first of all, they've been very smart with their messaging. I think that their convention is going much better than the Democrats' convention. The Democratic convention was really centered on fear of Trump, hate Trump, Trump bad guy. Look at all the bad things Trump did. Trump killed my family. Trump killed my dad. Trump deported my mom. It was a lot of this anger against Trump. And now we've got, racism all around the country, and we got to defeat racists. And Joe Biden, not so bad. And the Republicans are interestingly saying, hey, let's get these workers on camera. Let's talk to the lobster guy. Let's talk to the steel worker guy. Let's talk to nurses and firefighters and policemen. And let's talk to people that are helping prisoners get out of prison and enter back into society. They showcased Trump speaking at the graduation ceremony for the group of prisoners that just finished their program and shaking all the hands of all of these ex-prisoners and congratulating them and helping them re-enter society. We watched him pardon a guy. I know right now the left is going absolutely, or I shouldn't even call them the left. It's hard to know what to call Democrats. Democrats, they're not the left. Anyway, Democrats are meanwhile picking on the Republican National Convention, and they're saying things like, they're not socially distanced. They're not wearing masks. They violated the Hatch Act. We're seeing this over and over and over again. And it's exhausting. Come up with some policies. If you want us to vote for you, then you need policies. How about less war would be a great policy? Oh, wait, you can't do that because Joe Biden actually supports war. Politico actually just came out with an article last week talking about Biden's potential cabinet picks, which include Susan Rice for Secretary of State and Michelle Flournoy as Secretary of Defense. Hello, warmongers. These women are pro-intervention. They are pro-preemptive striking. They would have already struck Iran. They would have already gone after North Korea. They would escalate our war in Syria, trying to get Assad out. They would escalate in Afghanistan even more. These women are far from left. They are the John Boltons of the Democratic Party, and so you've got guys like John Bolton, who says, well, I'm not going to vote for Trump. Okay, good. That's a good thing. If a guy like Bolton is unwilling to vote for Donald Trump, you should ask yourself why. Why is he unwilling to vote for a guy like Donald Trump? Oh, because Donald Trump is unwilling to march us into all of these wars the way Bolton wanted him to. That's why. You've got Democrats who are just courting the Republican neocons. They are proud and they are flaunting them. They shoved Republicans in our faces over and over and over again. What does that tell you? It tells you the Democratic Party is becoming the new Republican Party. That's what it tells you. It tells you that they are now shifting into the party of the elites, the party for war, the party that's not really for the little guy. They're saying, Joe Biden, well, he's from Scranton, Pennsylvania, so therefore he's one of you. He's one of you. Couldn't be further from being one of you. That's the truth of it. This guy is a guy who has been fundamentally anti-American. He has done more damage to America than Joe Biden wrote the Patriot Act. He wrote the Patriot Act. He co-wrote the 1994 crime bill that, first of all, the Patriot Act has ripped rights away from Americans, has allowed the government to surveil, search and seize, to incarcerate, all of these things without any constitutional rights for the people. And it mostly has affected brown people, right? It's mostly gone after people who are Muslims, black and brown. Now you've got a lot of black folks who are converting to Islam. So they're using this Patriot Act against mostly brown and black folks. Then you've got Joe Biden, who co-wrote the 1994 crime bill. And what did that do? Mass incarceration, which ripped up family units, which I believe is the root cause for all of the despair that's going on within the black community in America today. I believe when you take fathers out of the homes, when you rip families apart, you're going to have devastating consequences for that. That is one of the reasons why, I think there's a lack of emphasis on the family unit when it comes to the Democrats. People on that side of the aisle, they want to kind of they kind of sometimes tend to, it feels like, view the family nuclear unit as some sort of right-wing, antiquated entity. And I think that actually is one of the reasons that's one of the fundamental kind of elements of destruction of society in some ways, and particularly of Black America. I think that when we took fathers out of these homes and left children without fathers and without mothers too, because their mothers had to go and work all the time. Then you got all these women, they were out there working 3 jobs trying to support their kids, and then their kids were getting involved in gangs and in drugs. They weren't able to keep their eye on their children because who was going to help them? Their dads were in jail and the moms were busy working. And so I think that tearing apart of that family unit led to a lot of the destruction, and Joe Biden was fundamentally one of the people behind that. So, harsher sentences, mandatory minimum sentences, just a very devastating. I really think that 1994 crime bill was one of the worst things to happen to Black Americans and to the Black American family unit. One of the reasons why Asians have been able to rise so quickly in society, and this is another thing it's never talked about, is that Asian families have the lowest rates of divorce. And I think that family unit, not to mention Asian families tend to have multi-generational homes. My mom, for example, takes care of my grandmother, lives with my grandmother. My grandmother has rarely lived alone when I think about it. Now, my family's Vietnamese. My grandmother lived with my uncle, helped raise his kids while him and his wife worked. And she's done that with each of her kids. She helped raise all of us, really. She helped raise me while my mom and dad went off to work when I was young. And that is the way Asian families operate. So not only is there a low divorce rate, usually amongst Asians, not in my family, I got a lot of divorce, but overall, there's a low divorce rate. And family units that stay intact, we know that when you've got that family support, when you have the love of your relatives around you, you are more likely to thrive in this world. So Joe Biden was absolutely destructive in that process for many, many people of color in this country. And Joe Biden voted for the Iraq War and hasn't apologized for that. He, doesn't really think that that's, maybe, kind of does this sort of thing. So you've got somebody who has, over his 50-year political career, however long it's been, 40 years, been completely and totally destructive for America, for our constitutional rights, for the family unit, and the devastation of Black communities across this country, and for the hundreds of thousands of lives lost from the endless wars that we've now marched ourselves into since the Iraq War. Since the Iraq War, Bush used the Iraq War as the gateway, which somebody like Barbara Lee, when she was the lone representative in Congress who voted against the Iraq invasion, said this is just going to open the door for all kinds of things. Bush ultimately, from Iraq, led us into 10 more countries, conflicts in 10 more countries. Obama then gets in office, and even though he says he's going to de-escalate, he ends up marching us into 9 more countries on top of this. Trump, in the meantime, has not marched us into any new territories. That is just the truth. So it's interesting that last night, watching the Republican National Convention, they're using a very anti-war message. They are saying Trump is the anti-war president, the anti-war candidate. I don't know if it's true, if he's like I said, it's his foreign policy hasn't been perfect by any means. He escalated tensions with Iran considerably. He has not gotten us out of our Yemen. He's escalated in some areas and tamped us down in other areas, but he has not actually marched us into any new regions. That is truthful. And I do think that we're going to be ramping down and getting out more than we've been getting in.